you need to avoid this investing mistake in 2022. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video where I share exactly how I avoid it and what I do to structure our portfolio to make sure that we're in the best place moving forward. Now, what we're talking about today is cross-collateralization. Now, the definition of cross-collateralization, that is a mouthful, is the act of using an asset that's collateral for an initial loan as collateral for a second loan. If the debtor is unable to make either loan scheduled repayments on time, the affected lenders can eventually force the liquidation of the asset and use the proceeds for repayment. Now, that's a very book type definition. In layman's terms, cross-securitization, which is the easier version, is where you have two assets like I've got here on screen. So you have house number one and house number two. They both were bought for $500,000 with $400,000 loaned each. But instead of having separate loans, you end up having one loan against the two properties, and that means they're cross-securitized. So say you bought house number one for $500,000, but you then sold it for $400,000 and made a loss, and you owed the bank money. Or say you sold it for $300,000, which has happened in Perth over the last 10, 20 years. So you bought it for $500,000, you sold it for $300,000, you made a $100,000 loss if you had $100,000 of cash in the deal to begin with. What that could mean is the bank wants to, and you don't have any other cash, they could sell house number two and pay off the debt against house number one. Because those properties were against one loan, securitization can cause a lot of issues in your investment portfolio. Now, why am I talking about this for 2022? Why is it going to be a big topic of conversation? And the reason is because we've seen anywhere between 15 to 25% growth in 2021. Lots of these investors like yourself who might be looking at their strategy are going to want to pull out equity and purchase another investment property. Now, the way you pull out equity is important, because if you pull out equity in a manner that cross-securitizes property number one and property number two together to then go and buy property number three, then you can really get yourself into a jam if you ever want to unwind that and you ever want to have properties individually valued. So cross-securitization or collateralization can really be a deal breaker when you want to grow your property portfolio. So like I said, if you've had anywhere between 15 to 25% growth in your property portfolio in 2021, and say you bought house number one and two or say you've got one property, just for simplicity's sake, and you bought it for the $500,000 and you had $400,000 of debt against that property and $500K purchase price. Now, that might have grown to $600,000 in value, and you still have $400,000 of debt against that property. Now, what you could do is take out an 80% loan. So you could take out a loan of $480,000, and you could increase your debt to $480,000 and use the new cash that you've got for the deposit on another property purchase. Now, that's the exact way we've done it in our property portfolio. We've taken the value of the property, increased the debt level with one loan against property number one, and then use that cash for a deposit on property number two. In that scenario, you have standalone properties and standalone loans. So you don't have one loan secured against two properties. Now, sometimes banks can be pretty clever and say, oh, the processing times are better. You know, we can get you a better rate. So that's a big pull. Oh, we'll give you a discount of 0.2% or 0.5%. And you just have one loan you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about multiple repayments. Now, this is an issue for multiple reasons. It can be an issue for tax purposes. So say you have an owner-occupier and an investment and they're tied up in one loan, that can cause you issues. It can also cause you issues in that refinancing. So as I was speaking about before, if the property devalues, then if they're cross-securitized, you can end up in hot water. Or in another scenario, say you can manage the cash flows on the other property that's gone down in value, but you have them cross-securitized, the bank will do valuations on both of the properties and say, oh, you're in a lower equity position than we would like. We're not going to lend you any more money. But if you had multiple properties and one's gone up in value and one's gone down in value, so say you bought them both for 500 and this one's gone to 400, and this has 400K of debt still on it and zero cash. Say one property had gone up 100,000, another property had gone down $100,000 of value. If they were cross-securitized, the bank will probably say, we're not going to lend you any more money. But in a normal, what I would say is a normal, in an ideal scenario, you could take property number one, take it to a new financier and say, yep, this property is worth 600, give me an $80,000 loan against that property, and you're not going to have any issues with the value of the other property because the bank's looking at each investment property purchase for its own merit. And you're using your own cash in that deal to make that next property purchase. So this is going to be critical for investors in 2022, making sure you don't have all your loans collateralized together and that you have individual properties with separate loans. This can be with one bank, you've got to be careful and read the T's and C's, or you can have an individual loan against an individual property with separate banks across all those loans. So when you have one property, you have one loan with that bank, one loan with one property with another bank, and so on as you look to build out your property portfolio. Now what we've done is we're dealing with a Big Four bank. We make sure we have separate loans. We're clear around what we're using that loan for, whether it's investment purposes or owner-occupier purposes. And if we say we wanted to sell this house that we're in, we would just be only securitized against the one loan for this house. So we would sell this property, pay off that loan, and we would be free and clear, and we wouldn't have to worry about the value of the other properties if they've been loss-making or profit-making, because each loan is siloed on its own. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out this video over here for more videos on real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. See you in the next one. Peace.